Welcome back, traders. This week, we've got all eyes on a busy schedule full of central bank activity. Things are going to start off this week with the FOMC Wednesday. You've got the ECB on Thursday, and then Bank of Japan and Russia on Friday. But we're going to start things off today with our next guest, talking currencies. Traders, we've got Alan Nuckman this morning. He's the Chief Market Strategist at Agora Financial here on Futures with Ben Lichtenstein. Alan, thanks for coming on the show this morning with all the attention with all the attention on central bank activity this week. Who's going to be the key player to watch? Will it be the FOMC and the possibility of a fourth rate hike, or will it be the ECB and the possibility of a hint to the ending of their bond purchase program?
Well, we've got a couple things to, get to those points, but what I wanted to talk real quickly about is the Canadian dollar's holding up after that kerfuffle, I guess, over the weekend. It's interesting to see that type of action, and I saw your last guest talking about oil and a possibility of an oil bottom. I'm seeing kind of the same thing if you look at the euro currency. The euro currency made some new lows 2 weeks ago and then had an unchanged close, and then last week rallied almost a full point. So maybe the dollar will stop going up, and that can be very much a positive for oil and support that theory as well.
Yeah, Alan, it's been interesting because with the recent dollar bid, as we've come off lows, there has been a lot of attention on the other currencies, on the euro currency, Canadian dollar, and the Mexican peso. Now, out of those three, it seems like the Canadian dollar has kind of held its own for the most part, best of all three. We've seen Mexican peso in the new 2018 lows, the euro currency, you just touched on it, took a bit of a hit there. Why do you think the Canadian dollar is holding up so well? I mean, considering NAFTA and all the concerns associated with trade talks.
Well, I think it's more of a commodity currency. So you've seen oil stabilize, and you've seen gold hold above $1,300 an ounce. So I think it's benefiting from just the commodity stability that we're seeing in some of the sectors. But I still think that gold could get a little bit of a bounce. It added $3 last week, but it did make a nice healthy low. Hasn't had any follow through just yet, but they're very much focused on the metals markets in Canada. And let's see if we can get this oil market to bounce back after a much-needed unwind, but I think it's set up once again. Now, we've got OPEC in a couple of weeks, but we'll start to get a little bit of a flavor of what their thoughts are here this week, and they'll give us probably some hints as far as what they're looking to do when their meetings come out.
All right, so Alan, we've got a lot of attention here today and tonight on the summit in Singapore. And then again, we just touched on the fact that the focus then will quickly shift to central bank activity. I'm curious, over the next 2 days, how much of an impact do you expect the summit to have on the currencies? And are we really just in a holding pattern as we wait for, again, central bank news to come out?
I think the focus is on central banks, but obviously we're all in agreement that there's going to be a hike here this week. Then what happens from there, I don't know. It depends on the language and the tone for, you talked about that elusive fourth rate hike. But again, let's remind ourselves this is slow and steady. This is what we've been expected. The Fed's done a great job of telegraphing and massaging the market's expectations so we know exactly what's coming. There have been no surprises, so I still have very much a lot of confidence in how they're managing this process. Because yes, we're going to raise rates. It's going to be slow and steady, but we're going to raise rates as the economy continues to do better and better. That's just the product of this overall comeback that we've seen in the financial markets over the last few years. Looking at the other currencies, we saw the pound back down a little bit, but that was supportive of the FTSE. And what was interesting overnight that we saw that the Italian stock market also bounced. So you're getting some positive action there after a bit of a spook that we saw a couple weeks ago with their political change there. So we'll keep an eye on the currencies. Also, I found interesting here this morning, just looking at the treasuries that you mentioned, you're not seeing any real buying of treasuries ahead of the summit. Not much fear that there could be any situation come of this to spook the market. So we'll have to see. But looking at the long bonds, where I cut my teeth years and years ago, which used to be the trading market, the 30-year is just right now at 143, right in the middle of the 146 to 140 range that we've been in for about 2 months. So we're just in middle ground, and I guess we're, as price watchers, you and I are, we'll have to wait for the markets to tell us what it thinks, because right now it's very, very indifferent.
Yeah, it seems to be kind of just digestive right now, but I want to kind of roll back the conversation a little bit here to back to the British pound, because you touched on it there, and it's a big week right now for Theresa May and Brexit. The MPs are going to vote on a EU withdrawal bill, and there's a lot of talk also about Northern Ireland border continuing, but I'm wondering, have you been hearing any new news in terms of the Brexit front and the weakness that we've been seeing in the 6B? Is it more a reflection of Brexit concerns, or has this been more attributable to some of the dollar strength that we've been seeing?
I'm not so sure, but looking at the action, it looks like just a little bit of a pullback after some recent strength. As we often say, that one day does not change a trend. It's important to see how it reacts now after this bit of a pullback, and see what kind of positive action or follow through it gets. But I think my eyes are really on the euro currency, and the euro currency building this base. And, we're back around this 118 level here. Let's focus on 120 in the euro currency and see if the dollar can top out. Again, from a reward to risk, I'd rather be a buyer of the euro and seller of the dollar than vice versa at these levels. I think there's more upside potential in the euro currency here after this healthy unwind that we've seen over the last couple of weeks.
All right, Alan, last question for you. The recent dollar bid that we've seen off lows, traders can give many reasons why, but I'm wondering if you think that some of this has actually been related to monetary policy and eco data, or is it possible that some of the bid that we've seen is directly attributable to some of the strength that we've seen in the Russell and the NASDAQ?
Well, looking at the dollar, let's remember this is a short-term rally. I mean, it's multi-month, but last year and the year almost the year and a half before, we were straight down in the dollar. So I think this was more of a short squeeze than anything else, forcing people to take profits on their short dollar positions, because everybody was overloaded in one direction, and the markets needed to find that. Find the equilibrium once again, and I think we've done that. Now it's important to see that we stay below that 95 level and head down and see where, if we can get below 93, then we might see some sustained push to the downside once again. Let's remember the politicians, what they want. They have a weak dollar policy, and then not only have they thought it, but they've said it.
Right.
And that doesn't happen in our lifetime. But let's remember that that's the way they're going to be guiding the market. So let's see if that can come true.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, because after they said it, it seemed like that almost coincided with the exact low that we saw there. Wouldn't it? Go figure. That's just how markets tend to work. But Alan, thanks for sharing your Monday morning with us. Alan Nuckman's the Chief Market Strategist at Agora Financial. And Alan, always a pleasure to have you on Futures with Ben Lichtenstein. Traders, I want to shift to